Hey, good day everybody. My name is Jeff and I'm the audio video lead here at St. Mark's Lutheran Church in Washington, Illinois. And I want to welcome you today to our training video. Today's video is on how to run the Livestream controller. So as the Livestream operator, you basically are the director of our online service. You'll decide when we broadcast, when we stop, and what we show to our online viewers. It is a critically important role. The good news, however, is that the controller is actually very simple to operate, and if you watch this video, you will learn everything you need to know. Now, if you're running the controller, you will also run the slides that we project during our live in-sanctuary service. And so you'll want to watch the training video on that as well. That is covered in a separate video. It's a different topic, so make sure that you watch that as well. If you're new and you've never run the controller before, please watch the video entirely through. It will tell you everything you need to know to run. If you're coming back for a refresher, maybe you haven't run it in a while, check in the description field below the video and you will see a list of the topics that we cover along with the times in which they're covered, and you can just go ahead and click on those links and go right to that part of the video. It'll save you a lot of time. That's all you'll need to know. Enjoy the video. Thank you in advance for serving. So the first thing to cover is what you can expect when you arrive to run the Livestream gear for that first time. So first of all, let's talk about arrival time. Plan to arrive about 20 minutes at least before the start of the service. Now, we generally start broadcasting a little bit early to show a prelude. For example, if our service would start at 11 o'clock, we'll generally start the live stream around 10:55, and that allows us to do a musical prelude before the service actually begins. You'll want to make sure that you're here at least 15 to 20 minutes before then, more if you have questions. That will give you time to become familiar with the service and everything. Now, when you arrive, the live stream gear and the slides, everything will be set up, powered up. The live stream gear will be ready to go. The slides will be loaded. Any videos you're going to show will be loaded on the computer, and you will be literally ready to go. But you're needing to check things over and become familiar with them. So when you arrive, you will find a copy of the bulletin that's been highlighted. You'll need to take some time to study that over a little bit and just, again, understand the order of the service, anything that might be different in this particular service, etc. You'll also want to spend the time looking through the slides and the videos. And what you're really looking for here is what slides or what videos need to be shown to the online audience. We generally broadcast a large number of slides during a service. We generally show almost none of those to the online audience, but there are some that we do. If you watch this video, it will give you a very clear understanding of what you need to show or not show. We'll also have that on a cheat sheet, piece of paper, that has been typed up and is taped to the wall in the sound booth. But you'll want to make sure that you've got the time to look through those materials, understand what you'll need to show. Either myself or another AV lead will be there. You can ask questions about the service if there's anything different. Also, if there's any special slides or special videos, etc., that you'll need to show. So again, arrive in time to ask those questions, to get familiar with the gear, but everything will be set up, and that's all you need to know. Next, we'll take a look at the live streamer itself and the system so you can kind of understand what you're operating. All right, so next, let's take a look at the Livestream system so you actually understand what the parts are and what they do. So the most basic piece of this is the controller itself, and you can see it's this small black panel with a lot of different little lit up buttons on it. We'll talk about those later. This is the A10 Mini Pro by Blackmagic Design, and this is what we are using for our Livestream controller. So if we take a look at it, there's a variety of cables that come in. So this can take in up to 4 video inputs, and these can be anything you want them to be, cameras, slides, etc. We're using 2 of those, which we'll talk about in a minute. And it allows you to select between those 4 and kind of mix and match in terms of what you'd like to show on the internet. The other thing that it has in it, you'll also see an Ethernet cable hooked up to the back as well. We plug Ethernet directly into it, and through that it directly accesses the internet and is able to live stream on its own. So it is a self-contained unit, and we don't need any additional computer or anything else to actually allow us to live stream. So as I said, we are using 2 of the 4 inputs that we are given on the A10 Mini Pro. So let's take a look at what those inputs are. So the most basic one, and this is input number 1, is going to be our video camera. So again, we run the video camera from the sanctuary floor, and this is what we use to essentially shoot the service, the musicians, the pastors, etc., and provide the video and the sound. And we use a wireless link to send that from the sanctuary floor up to the sound booth. If we take a look in the ledge of the sound booth, we will see the receiver for that wireless link, and it's the wireless link is what's known as a Mars 300 by Hollyland. That basically receives the video and the sound from the camera, and that signal goes directly into input 1 on the Mini Pro. The other signal that we use is basically what we feed to the projector. So again, on our projector in the sanctuary, we will show videos, we will show slides during the service. We basically split that input, that video that is going into the projector, and we run the other one in a channel 3 on the Mini Pro. And this allows us then to choose to show any of the slides or videos or anything else that we would project in the sanctuary we can show. And so that essentially is the heart of the system. Now the other major component, you'll see a display right behind the Mini Pro, and that's the other major component of the system. The display is actually pretty important. It is connected to the Mini Pro, and it shows essentially everything the Mini Pro sees. Now, there's a lot of different boxes and things going on in the display. We're only going to talk through the ones that we're actually going to use, and it's simpler than it looks. First of all, let's take a look at the middle row. There's a set of 4 different boxes labeled camera 1, 2, 3, and 4, and these are the 4 inputs to the Mini Pro. So what we'll see when we look at it, again, is we're only using 2. We'll see 2 things. 1, we'll see the camera feed coming into the Mini Pro, and 2, we will see whatever is being shown on the projector, and right now that's a slide, and so we can see it as well. The other 2 are black. They should be black because we don't have anything coming into those, but we could choose to expand and add additional cameras if we chose, and that's how we would do that. Up at the top, there's 2 big boxes, and what you'll see is they both show the same thing right now. Those essentially show you what we are or would be live streaming. So whichever of those 4 inputs we've chosen will be up in the program and in the preview boxes, and that's what is either going out now on your live stream or what will go out as soon as you go live. So that's what you're showing. And then down at the bottom, there's another row of 4 boxes. We're going to take a look at 2 of these which we use. The first one, the second one in from the left, right now is showing off, but this is basically the status of our live stream. That's either going to show us off or it will show us on air when we're actually broadcasting. You'll see at the bottom it says YouTube. That's because the controller has been set up to broadcast to our particular channel on YouTube, and it has the key for that. So essentially, as soon as we hit the on-air button, we are live and streaming. The second one that we use will actually show us the status of sound, and that is the 4th one over from the left, or the rightmost box, if you will. And that one's colored. You can see red, green, and yellow bars on that. And what we should see is what it shows right now, what you're looking at right now, which basically is the camera 1 input is basically bolded or highlighted. The other ones are shaded. And if we were actually speaking into the mic when this was going, we would see those sound levels jump. You will see that during the actual live broadcast. And what that indicates is that we're using the sound from the camera, from channel 1, which is what we want to. And when we see that bolded, it means that that's actually will be what's going out on our live stream. And again, when it's jumping up and down, that's because the sound is changing. That basically is the Livestream system. Again, a controller, 2 inputs, one from the projector, one from the camera, and a display to show us everything that's going on. And that essentially is what you'll run. It's fairly simple. Next, we'll start to take a look at how you start up the live stream and then basically how you will switch to show videos, slides, camera, etc. So stay tuned. So operation of the Mini Pro is pretty easy. There are a lot of buttons on the surface of the controller, but we're actually only going to use a small number to run our live stream. So there's 2 sets of buttons that we're going to use. First of all, in the upper right corner of the device, there are 2 buttons. One is labeled on air and the other is labeled off. Those are the buttons that we're going to use to basically start and end our live stream. After that, we're going to use the set of 4 buttons along the lower side of the board that are basically labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. And what those will essentially do is allow us to choose which of our video inputs that we actually show in the live stream. So again, we're using only 2, the camera and the projector display. And so we can freely choose between those by pressing the 1 or the 3 button. If we press the 2 or the 4 button, which are unconnected, we'll basically just get a blank screen on the live stream. So a fairly simple operation. 1, 2, 3, 4, they light up. The button that's lit is the one that is currently showing. And you can also see that on the display and the preview and program boxes. But that's literally all you'll have to do to run the device. There's one other button that you have to just take note of. You won't have to do anything with it. But above the number 1 button, there is a red lit button that should be labeled on. And that basically controls the sound. If that button is lit, then the sound that is coming in through the camera is what will go out on the live stream, irregardless of what is displayed. If that button is not lit, then basically no sound will go out on the live stream. So when you arrive, that button should be set up. But if you ever happen to notice that it's off, go ahead and press it again and turn it on. That will make sure we've got sound. With that in mind, we're going to walk through some specifics on starting and ending the live stream and showing slides, going between slides, video, things like that. Aside from the buttons you'll push, which are simple, there's just a few things in terms of sequence that we do in order to make things look good. And the basic rule for this, for you, again, is remember that you're the director. So make it look good. If there's something that looks interesting that you'd like to show that's on a slide, feel free to throw it in there. With these tips that we'll cover in the rest of the video, it should give you everything you need to know. So stay tuned. Thanks. All right, so let's talk about how to start the live stream with the controller. This is fairly simple, but it's the first thing, obviously, that you're going to do. So to start out, let's talk a little bit about timing. Our services generally will start on the hour. So let's, as an example, use an 11 o'clock service. The prelude will start at 5 minutes before that, usually. Where we want to start the live stream ideally is before the prelude it has to start, and maybe in the 5 to 10 minutes before the hour range. So the live stream is already going at the point where we need to do the prelude, and we basically are ready to run. And from a timing perspective, that's what we want to have happen. Now, before we start the live stream, we need two things. So first of all, your slide projector should be showing the opening slide. And generally, this is a shot of St. Mark's. It might have the date. It might have some words of welcome or recognition of a church holiday or something like that. But that opening slide should be showing out on the projector. And to get it to show on the controller, you're going to go ahead and hit the big number 3 button on the lower side of the controller. Okay, let's take a look now at how you will start up the live stream. This is obviously the very first thing you're going to do. So to start up this, let's talk a little bit about timing and kind of what you want to have happen. So let's assume that our service starts at 11 o'clock. The prelude, the musical prelude, will generally start at 5 minutes to 11, somewhere in that time frame. And we want to be running before that prelude starts. We also don't want to have things fairly quiet. So what we don't want to do is go live and then have people running scales on the organ or hear testing into the mics because someone's doing a final sound check. So we're telling people, our musicians and our pastors and everybody, to have all that work done, make sure you're ready to go, your sound checks are completed by 10 minutes before the hour, before the start of the service. So somewhere between 10:02 and 5:02, that's really when you want to start the live stream ideally. Again, there's two things that you're going to need. One, as we said, is silence. You want the sound checks to be done and the playing of instruments to be done. If someone is still playing at that time, please feel free to leave the booth, go down and just talk to them and say, hey, I'm about to start the live stream. I need you to stop playing. They will understand exactly what you're trying to tell them. They've already been told that, and no worries. But please don't be shy about doing that. We want to have kind of a clean sound when you go into this. The other thing is we want to have a nice opening slide. So on the slide projector, if you're not already doing it, go ahead and go to the first slide in the packet. This is our opening slide. It's generally a picture of St. Mark's. It might be the date or some other information on it, but that's our opener, and that's what we want to show. Get that on the projector, and on the live stream controller in those large numbered buttons at the bottom, hit the button numbered 3. We'll talk more about this later, but essentially what that does is it tells the controller, whatever's on input 3, which is your projector, that's what I want to have go out on my live stream when I start up. At that point, you're ready to go. So let's talk about starting up the live stream. This is very simple. Take a look at the controller. In the upper right-hand corner, there is a button labeled On Air. Press it. When you hit that button, one of the things you'll note on the display is that the status changes from off to on air in red, and that tells you that you are broadcasting. You may see a number below that that moves around, and what that is basically showing you is the data rate coming out of the controller. It's informational only. You don't need to do anything about that. At that point, you are on the air. There is one other thing, though, that you'll need to do. So take a look at the bulletin and at whoever is doing the prelude. It might just be an organ solo, piano solo. They might be singing. But you want to make sure that you keep an eye on that person. So before they start, they will look up at you to basically ask, are we ready to go, and can I go ahead and go? If you've got the live stream on, give them a thumbs up or cue them and tell them, hey, you're ready to go. And that tells them that, yes, I can go ahead and start the service. We're live streaming. And that's it. At that point, we are live streaming. The service will begin. And we'll next take a look at how you control what goes on the live stream during the service. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to run the live stream during the beginning of the service and during the end. And we'll go back to the beginning and start there. So you've just started the live stream. You've just gone ahead and cued the prelude musician. And they have gone ahead and started the prelude, and they're starting to play. What do you do? In general, the camera should have that shot of the musician, and you're going to go ahead and switch over to the camera view. And you do that by hitting the button labeled number 1 on the live stream controller. And when you do that, you will see the camera view come up into the upper right corner in that program box, and you are now going live with the camera view of the performer. And it's that simple. And from that point forward, again, you're probably going to use the camera view for most of the service. Now, one exception to that, though, that I want to note, in general, the prelude will be somebody that's singing, somebody that's playing, performing an instrument. You can see the person, and it makes for a very good video shot. But occasionally, the prelude is an organ solo. And from the camera angles we've got, that organ solo may show the back of the organ with the top of somebody's head sticking out, the organ player sticking out behind it. It's not a very compelling shot. And if you get a shot like that that you look at and you say, yeah, this isn't very interesting, feel free to keep the prelude on the opening slide. The music will still play in the background. They'll hear the nice music, and that'll be great. And you can go ahead and hold that shot until we get to the point where we're actually wanting to do the pastor doing the welcome and then switch to the camera. For most of the service, you'll be on the camera, and that, again, will be the number 1 button, and that's how you'll switch over there. But feel free to hold the slide if it's a more interesting shot. Keep in mind that you are the director of the live stream, and so if a slide looks more interesting than the camera view, go for it and call it good. Let's talk a little bit about the ending then. So again, in the ending, we will have a closing song. And when that closing song is done, either the worship leader or one of the pastors will say, "Go in peace, serve the Lord." The congregation will respond back with "Thanks be to God." And at that point, then the postlude will start. So when the postlude starts, you're going to go ahead and switch the slide over to the ending slide. And again, this is generally going to be, again, the same shot of St. Mark's. There'll generally be credits for the flowers in terms of who bought the flowers and what the occasion was that they were wanting to commemorate. You'll switch to that slide, and at that point, you'll also switch the video feed over to 3. You'll hit the 3 button. That will show the slide out on the live stream, and you'll call it good. And you'll hold that until the postlude is done, and we'll have another section here below in terms of how you actually stop the live feed. That's all you need to do. Let's take a look now at how to use slides throughout the service. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the display of slides in the live stream during the service. So, in general, during the service, you are almost always going to stay on the camera. So your live stream controller, the button 1, will be pushed and will be lit up. The program box on the display will show the camera view, and that's what you're going to do. People want to see the action that's going on stage. But occasionally, when something interesting does come up on the slides, you're going to want to go ahead and switch over to that and show it. Now, that slide may be one that you advance to using the slide computer, or during the sermon, oftentimes the pastors will have a clicker and will click that to move forward during their slides during a sermon. It could be either one of those that you may want to show. Get the slide up on the screen that you want, and then go ahead and hit the 3 button to display the slide. Hold it for as long as you need to, and then go back to hit the 1 button again. So the question then is, what does "as long as you need to" actually mean? So there's 2 different answers to that. The first is it could be a slide where people are doing a reading. So for example, the Lord's Prayer. So if you put the slide up with the Lord's Prayer, you're going to want to hold that slide on the screen as long as we're going through the Lord's Prayer. But once we hit to the end and hit the amen, you're going to want to go back to the camera view, press the number 1 button, and go back. For other slides, they may be pictures, they may be a bullet point or 2 that someone is referencing. The best guidance that I've got on this is hold it on the screen for as long as it seems interesting to you. Think about how you experience church when you're sitting here live in the sanctuary. You're sitting in a pew. You don't sit and stare at the projector screen for the entire service. Generally, you're staring at the pastor or whoever's on stage, and occasionally when something new or interesting comes up on the screen, you're going to look over and take a look at it. The live stream should look the same way. So for example, if the pastor brings up a picture and they talk about that briefly, you're going to want to show that picture briefly, but then you're going to want to go back to the pastor view. Maybe hold that for 5 seconds, maybe a little bit longer. If they continue to talk about it, leave it on. But once they stop and somebody has seen it and really digested it, go back to the camera view, hit the number 1 button again. Your own guidance on does this still seem interesting or not is probably the best, your best indicator of when to switch a slide off and go back to the camera view. This is not a hard science. The one piece of advice I would give is don't be choppy with it. In other words, things shouldn't go on and stay on for 1 second or 2 seconds. They probably need to stay on for a minimum of 4 or 5 so that somebody has a chance to look at it, digest what's actually on the slide before you go back to the camera. But it doesn't have to stay there all day. Think about how you'd view that if you were in the sanctuary. If you'd look at that slide for 4 or 5 seconds and then look back at the pastor, the live stream should behave the same. Switch over to the slide for 4 or 5 seconds, then hit the number 1 to switch back to the camera. That's simple. Stay tuned. We're going to take a look now at how you show a video. So now we're going to go ahead and show a video. So again, during the service, we may project a video. It could be the children's message, it could be a stewardship or another special type of video. We'd like our online viewers to be able to see that as well. And again, because it goes out on the projector, it comes into the Mini Pro on channel number 3. And so by hitting the 3 button, we'll be able to show that video. There is some timing, however, that needs to take place between the computer that projects and the Mini Pro. And so let's talk about that really quickly. First of all, let's review where videos are going to show up in Pro Presenter on the computer. So if we take a look at the Pro Presenter screen, down at the bottom is where any kind of video or graphics are contained. And our videos will be in the top line of that, and they will be to the far left-hand side. We will put them in order. So if you're only showing one video, it will appear down there in the upper leftmost place. If there's more than one, they'll show up there, but they will be in order. So the first video will be first, second, next, etc., for however many as you've gotten. When the pastor, during this part of the service, we will have the camera view on, so button number 1 will be pushed. The pastor may be doing the gospel reading as an example, and then when they finish that, they'll say, hey, and now it's time to take a look at the children's message with Nancy. And that's when you're going to go ahead and put the children's message video on. Here's what you do. It's a several-step process. You're going to start out on Pro Presenter by hitting the Clear All button. And what that will do is it will go ahead and clear out blank or turn black the projector screen. Once that's been done, you're going to go over to the Mini Pro and switch over to the projector input, and that's number 3. You're going to click the lit number 3 button, and again, your program and preview windows right now will be black because there's nothing coming out. And then you're going to go ahead down to the video you want in Pro Presenter and single click that video and it will start. And that is all you have to do. Now, I shouldn't say that, it's not all you have to do because you'll have to end it as well. But to start it up, that's all you have to do. You'll see your video start to play on the projector screen. You'll also start to see it come across on the live stream. You'll see it up in the program and preview windows on the top. So all is good. Now, when that video is done, Pro Presenter will actually continue to loop it. So you're going to have to stop it and then switch back to the camera view on the live stream. So here's what you have to do. First of all, take a note of the Pro Presenter screen. So in the upper left-hand side, you'll see your video playing. And underneath that, there's a timer that shows you how much time is left before it's done. So you don't have to sit there and worry and try and sweat it out. You can actually see, hey, I have 2 minutes left. I have 10 seconds left of this video. When you're starting to get to the end and you've maybe got 10 or 15 seconds left, go ahead and get ready. You're going to run essentially the same process. As soon as that video is done, you're going to hit the Clear All button in Pro Presenter. That again is going to blank out the projector screen and blank out what's showing on the live screen right now. Those screens will go black. You're going to go ahead and switch back to the camera view on the live stream by hitting the number 1 button. And again, now your camera feed will come back up in the program and preview windows. You're live streaming the camera again. And then on the slide, back in Pro Presenter, you'll go ahead and just click on the slide that you happen to want, whatever's next. And generally that will be an introduction to the sermon. But that's all you have to do. It's a fixed sequence. We will have this on a sheet of paper up in the booth, but it's fairly simple. And it's always Clear All, live stream controller, and then either start a video or click to a slide. Fairly simple. Okay, so we've successfully run our live stream. Now the only thing we have to do is basically end it when the service is done. So again, we're now at the end of the service. The closing song has been done. The postlude is going, and we've gone ahead and switched over to that closing slide. We're basically going to hang on until the postlude is done, until there's no more sound, essentially. And at that point, we're going to go ahead and hit the off button. So again, the on-air button was up in the upper right-hand corner of the controller. Right below that is a button labeled off. We're going to press the off button, and we will check on the display, and we'll see the display status go from on-air to off. And at that point, we are no longer live streaming, and we're done. At that point, we can go ahead and clean up, and we're finished up. So that's all there is to it. So we'll summarize here in a second. Hang on. All right, well, you now have all the information you need to know to run the live streamer, so congratulations. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video, and thank you so much for your volunteer effort and your volunteer time. Please feel free to ask any remaining questions that you may have, and don't be afraid. We're all learning in this together, and so there's no worries. You've got the info you need, and you're going to do great. So anyway, thank you so much for being part of our live streaming experience. Have a great day.